So I wanted to start off with, you were appointed into this new portfolio of citizen services last July. I'm wondering, for those who are listening who might not be familiar with it, because it is a new portfolio in the federal government, if you could just give a bit of an overview of, what it includes and the types of initiatives that you're responsible for.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So I'm not only a new minister as of July 26th of 2023, but this is a new ministry. From the highest level, it encapsulates Service Canada, but also the Canadian Digital Service. And I think the easiest way to describe it to people is to talk about what my priorities are on a large scale. So I tell people when they're trying to get the fast version of this is that it's dental, digital, and customer service. And I always say that dental is a code word because dental, it's the obvious biggest lift. In fact, we just had a tremendous week for dental care because we've just gotten customers actually in front of a dentist. It's not theoretical anymore. People have actually had their teeth fixed through the program. But I always say it's a code word for benefits because I'm responsible for the delivery of OAS, old age security, the guaranteed income supplement, the Canadian pension plan, as well as employment insurance. And if you take those collectively, that's $1.5 trillion of payments over a period of 10 years. It's also the location of the largest digital transformation project in the history of the government with the Benefit Modernization Program. If you go to the second part, which is digital, that is about making government accessible to Canadians 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we used to be the third most advanced nation in the world for digital services. We've since dropped to 32nd. Unacceptable. We need to get that back up. About 23% of our services are available in some way. There's no reason we can't get that into the high 90%. And, if you think about productivity for Canadians and the like, passports is a really great example. So everybody knows that coming out of the pandemic, we had this unlimited demand for passports. And at the same time, when travel restrictions had lifted, health restrictions had not. So we had this situation where we had unprecedented demand and offices working at 40 to 50% capacity with social distancing and people working from home for the first time, et cetera. And we created this backlog of passport applications, like 313,000 backlog. Well, by the end of this year, we are now going to have a service where you can renew your passport application online. What does that mean for the average person? Well, compared to right now, where you might have to stand in a Service Canada center or a passport center or submit a bunch of documents in the mail and then wait for your passport to be returned, you literally don't have to take time off work. You don't have to wait for the government's hours of operation. You don't have to pay for parking at the site. You don't have to find childcare. You literally go on your computer or go on your phone. It's convenient for you. Apply for your application, and the passport will show up in the mail. That is a small example of what the future of government services looks like. But when I say that, I think it's important, especially given your audience. It's not just about making things more convenient for Canadians and the customers. It's also about making things more convenient for the people that are serving customers. So there are a lot of antiquated systems in the background and processes that are, I don't think archaic would be an exaggeration, and quite stressful and kind of silly. It's just systems stacked on systems stacked on systems, and we need to streamline that. The third component, so I said dental, digital, and customer service, is about kind of flipping the prioritization of how we deliver services to Canadians. So for a lot of good reasons, government is always trying to do things for more people in an inexpensive way as possible. Obviously, we have constraints on the amount of tax revenue that we collect and how much things cost and the like. And what happens is we tend to build things and then we kind of just let them go and we move on to the next thing. OAS is a great example of this. So the original system that was built is about 63 years old. It still runs off the same mainframe. And then there's like 150 other independent systems that have been stacked onto it to adjust for different policy changes that have come in over the years. And the more stuff that you stack around a system that was designed on a language that almost nobody codes in anymore, in COBOL and the like, the more and more you narrow the ability for us to actually have that process be efficient, but also customers are like, why are you making me go through all these hoops? And it's like, well, we're we're actually limited by the technology that we're utilizing. So modernizing that with an eye to how can I make this as easy as possible for our customers is not something that governments traditionally, like we don't have the same competitive forces. Like in the private sector, if your competitor has a better way, more efficient way of delivering a service, then you're going to improve or you're going to go out of business. Whereas in the government, like nobody else is providing passports, right? It's just us. So we need to bake that incentive and that culture into the public service, which means like we have a lot of project managers. I've been saying that we need a lot more product managers, people who obsess about the current process, how it currently works, and making that better over time. So you take those three big categories. That's the job of the new Minister of Citizen Services.